Hello, and thank you all for joining us again here today on Hessens County for another TTRPG talk. This video series takes a look at tabletop role-playing games and related materials, makes suggestions for your own games, and takes a look at some of my own materials. Today, we're going to be taking a look at this little game. This is a one-pager pamphlet that you can very easily print at home. As you can see, mine printed out slightly wrong because this part's upside down. But anyway, this is a game called Wastewalkers, created by René Pierre Dichet of TTRPG. And you can, as you can see here, partly from the art and then also from some of the basic descriptions of the game, that this is very heavily inspired by games like Borderlands, Fallout, and other related games in the sort of post-apocalyptic survival genre. This is based off of the Songs and Sagas system that René Pierre created, uh, and you can find it. You can find a video actually on this channel where we take a look at the SRD and talk about ways that you could utilize a role play that particular Songs and Sagas SRD in creating your own game. Link will be up in the corner there in the info bar and in the description down below. But in any case, this is the second game that RP created utilizing their system. And this is going to be part of a 3-episode sort of series. This one, we're going to be, again, kind of taking a look at some of the basic differences between this and your standard Songs and Sagas experience, and creating our character. The next episode, we will actually be playing our character, so there won't actually be any direct gameplay at the moment. And then finally, we'll be wrapping up play in a third episode that will be coming out and having a slightly different twist on the ending. You'll just have to find out. But in any case, yeah, let's talk about some things that are here that are a bit different from your standard Songs and Sagas game. Songs and Sagas is a traditional hex crawl, so you actually have a map of hexagons where you're moving around and doing different things. This has a lot of that similar feel and action to it. The main difference being, at least when it comes to the hex crawl element, is that instead of filling out a hex map, instead you're essentially drawing your own by making circles on a piece of paper, and then kind of as you move around, you're connecting to new circles so that you have like lines connecting them, and so it's little bit different. But it's so because it's not like super as quite as structured, and you can obviously have empty spaces in between. You can go back and fill in later. But yeah, that kind of changes things a little bit. We have 4 different attributes in this system, just like your standard Songs and Sagas game. The terminology is slightly different. In this one, we have tough, smart, fast, and human. Exactly what those mean, we'll talk about in a second. Otherwise, this is very similar to most other Songs and Sagas games. In fact, this is also very similar to my own Songs and Sagas game, a different kind of queer armor that with the exception of the fact that in my game there are some extra bits that are thrown in here. So the most of the bits, I'm not actually going to be looking at the inside of the pamphlet today in detail, but it is all very similar to whatever you would find inside of any Songs and Sagas game. It's all very standard. When it comes to most of this stuff, one thing that's a little bit different is scavenging, where you're going to be determining what you find based on cards. Yeah, if there's anything interestingly different in here, we'll hop into that at a later date. So before we hop into creating the character, if you haven't actually watched my video where we talk about the Songs and Sagas SRD and the basic structure of how this game works, it is built around the action mechanics of the game are built around a trial roll where you essentially the attributes that we are going to be creating are either a bonus or a malus. So it's always going to be a plus or a minus number. Just like in some other games, we're not going to have like an attribute number that then creates a bonus. We'll just go straight to the bonus. So yeah, essentially what you'll do is you'll figure out which of the 4 attributes you're going to use, uh, determine what that bonus should be, reveal the difficulty rating. The difficulty rating may be increased based on pools from the card deck. So this might make the roll a little bit harder. Then we roll a d20 and add the attribute modifier, and then determine whether we got a success or a setback based on whether we got equal to or above the number, which is this difficulty rating here. So either a 9, 12, or a 15, depending upon how hard the action is. And then however many black cards we drew as the GM would determine, would increase the difficulty rating by 2. I just wanted to describe that really quickly before we actually start creating our characters so that you are aware of how the attributes are actually going to be working in our character. But yeah, we'll just flip over to here. This is actually this section right here between my hands, these 3 columns. These are actually describing your character and how to construct it and stuff like that. Experience, allowing you to level up and actually increasing your endurance and attributes and stuff like that as a part of that experience. So going over here, we have our paragraph that's actually describing our 4 traits or 4 attributes. The actual thing that the attributes are describing are the same as standard songs and sagas, but the terminology is slightly different. So tough is, strength, smashing, overwhelming things, striking things, stuff like that. Lifting things that are heavy. Fast is, doing things fast, like or doing things with a manual dexterity. So this is your sneaking, your aiming, your running, your scavenging things. So digging through and finding things quickly, stuff like that. Smart is in many ways a combination of intelligence and will or wisdom. So in this one, you can sense, decipher, analyze, hold your ground, stuff like that. And then finally, the last one is human. This is in many ways your sort of people communication skills. So you use it to rally your friends, gain allies, sway or command people, stuff like that. As we prepare to create, the first thing that we will normally do is we will draw 4 cards off of the top of our deck. Depending upon the suit, we will either be we'll either be starting with a +2, a +1, a 0, or a -1 in any of our 4 attributes, which again, remember, are tough, fast, smart, and human. If we would like to, we can actually redraw, or at least we have the option of revealing an additional card that we can swap out for another one, like if we get like a bunch of really bad cards. Once we have determined that, then the next step is to figure out what our background is going to be. But we'll get into that in just a second. The first thing I'd actually like to do is to go ahead and draw our cards so that we know what we're going to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and put them up here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, these are going to be our tough, fast, smart, and human cards. So for our first card, that is a club. So for tough, we're starting with a bonus or an attribute bonus of 0. We have a heart, so our fast will be starting with a +2. Our next card is a spade, which means that our smart will be starting at a -1. And we have a club, so that one will be starting at a 0. This character has some disadvantages in comparison to most others, and I'm intending on this being a solo playthrough, so that might not be really strong enough. I'm going to draw one more and then replace. Okay, we have a heart. All right, so the question is, do I want to put it into tough, or do I want to put it into one of the other ones? I think I'm going to swap out the human. I'm going to put it there. because I think that will be an interesting thing to kind of play with, having our character being a bit more of a social character. Alrighty. So yeah, that reveals that. So for the next thing we'll need to do is we need to figure out what the background of our character should be. The base version of this game has 4 different backgrounds that you can see here. We have the Orbiter, which is the person who managed to survive in one of the orbital apocalypse shelters. Um, yeah, they managed to kind of go up to it's basically they're surviving on a space station, and occasionally people come down to see if the world is ready has recovered from the end, whatever that was, um, and seeing if things are ready for us down here on the surface. So this gives a bonus to human and smart. Each of these different backgrounds gives us sets our endurance and gives us a bonus to 2 of our attributes. Um, so again, this one's human and smart, and then our maximum endurance, which is basically our hit points, is a d6 plus 3. So this character can't really take too many hits, but they are really charming, or at least they're charismatic and good at dealing with people, and they're rather intelligent. Um, the next one is the Hollower. So these are people who survived somehow or another the end times and now live in the sort of old world undercities and the sort of twisted tunnels that are there. Um, so yeah, you've lived in the shadows. You're kind of a troglodyte to a certain extent. Your endurance is a d8 plus 3. You have a fast of 2 and a tough of 1. The next one we have here are the Duners. These are the people who survived out in the wastelands as nomads, navigating the deserts and the wreckage and scavenging for useful parts and stuff like that. So I kind of think of these people as being kind of like the Tusken Raiders or the Jawas. Um, they have a tough of 2. They add 2 to tough, 1 to fast, and their endurance is d10 plus 3. So they're the most endurant and definitely geared towards physical combat. And then we have the Streeter. So yeah, the Streeter is your people have no history or have turned their back on it. They build slum cities and makeshift outposts in places and call it civilization, but everyone knows that civilization died a long time ago. So presumably these are people who somehow managed to survive, but have kind of turned their back on the way they used to live and are now trying to recreate the old world here in some capacity or another. Um, they have a smart of 2 and a human of 1, so these are definitely intelligent and trying to scavenge things and analyze things from the past to try to recreate civilization. Like I mentioned, a human of 1, so they're very social, so they're relatively social, and they have a maximum endurance of d6 plus 3. So again, they are not on the very strong or tough side. Finally, one last thing is that all of our characters will start with a D4 armor set and a D6 weapon in their inventory, which of course is the means that they will be attacking the opposition. So yes, let's go ahead and flip this over, and we will start actually creating our character here. So for our background, sorry, I'm having second thoughts. No, I'm going to go with the Duner, actually. Yes, we're going to go with the Duner. So because we picked a Duner, that means we're going to get +2 to our tough. We're going to get +1 to our fast, which already is a +2 because of this. So our fast is going to be 3. Our smart is going to stay at -1, and our human is going to be 2. Our maximum endurance is D10 plus 3. So I'm going to be rolling this off screen. So alrighty, I rolled a 7. So a 7 plus 3 would be 10. And again, in our inventory, we're going to have to put a D6 weapon, which I'll just write like that. So we'll need to figure out what that's going to be here in just a second. And then again, we have, at the moment, we have D6, D4 armor. So I'll mark that there so that we remember that what our armor is. Again, we don't have any, we don't start with any experience. Oh, right, I forgot to write the 10 there. Alrighty, so um, so for our weapon, what would be a good thing for our character? I'm gonna say their character's pronouns are going to be he, him. So I'm thinking that the name for our character, I'm actually gonna go with Arif, which I'm actually doing on purpose. For those of you who don't know, Arif is actually like an Arabic name. It essentially means like what's a good way to describe the meaning of this name? It means kind of like you're an expert, you're learned. There's a very similar name that's actually spelled Aref from Persian, if I remember correctly. But yeah, basically, yeah, it means that the person Arif is like is a learned person. They know a lot. They're an expert. Um, I'm picking this partly because I'm guessing that Arif, obviously they're an expert survivalist. They're fast and tough, and they can survive a long time in the desert. Um, it's also kind of a joke because, of course, they're slightly disadvantaged on actions involving playing things smart. um, so I'm thinking that probably Arif's parents named him that because they had aspirations for him, like becoming, I don't know, some learned scholar or, um, doing having a intelligent, not intelligent, but having a job based on learning and that's also safe, but Arif had other plans. um, as for their weapon, I'm thinking maybe Arif. I keep thinking of Tusken Raiders, but I don't actually want to do that. I'm thinking Arif probably. I also don't want to like lean too much into like Dune vibes necessarily, even though I mean this is a Duner. Like they literally survive the desert. I'm thinking he has like some sort of multifunction crossbow. By what I mean is like I'm thinking like this thing probably has the capacity. Um, it has like um, essentially it's kind of like a multi crossbow, not like it fires multiple arrows, kind of like that, but more of like it has the capacity to like fire like darts that are smaller and can fly further and punch through armor, or um, and then also like standard arrows for like hunting or whatever or something along those lines. So essentially, it's kind of like yes, it's a crossbow, but I'm thinking it like fires like multiple different types of arrows, so that increases its ability to specialize, but still all being in one package. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So this is basically it. This is all there really is to creating a character in Wastewalkers or most other more basic Songs and Sagas games. You just got name, pronouns, backgrounds, attributes, endurance. Then you're starting armor and weapons, and then you're ready to roll. So yeah, like I said, this is again the first of a short series of episodes where we're going to be either taking a look at or playing Wastewalkers, and both as because of this particular game, which recently came out, links which you can find in the doobly-doo down below, but also because it's a good example of a game built around the Songs and Sagas system, which of course I've already talked about, created a game using. So I think it's good to try to increase the appeal of a simple game like this, where it's really easy to create a single page game where most of the rules are already there, and you're basically kind of really changing flavor. And if you want to expand it to to like a larger sort of pamphlet style game, that's more like you know 6, 8, 10 pages as opposed to just one front and back, it's definitely an option. So anyway, yes, this was Hessens County, taking a look at Wastewalkers by René Pierre of Fari RPG. Thank you all for joining us again. Be sure to subscribe to catch the next episode. Don't forget to rate your Edge purchases, and have a good zone.